Okay, there I go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk, Real Solutions. Thank you all for being here today on this live that we're going to be doing. I have a very special guest, and this special guest, his name is Keith McGowan. I think, okay, can hear you now. Okay. Yes, and his name is Keith McGowan, and he is an avid boater, and he actually became interested at around the age of 18, and his passion has just grown. And his one of his great passions is to help those who are boat owners how they can fix their own boats and not to be afraid, and how by learning how to fix their own boats, it is saving them thousands of dollars. So even if you're like, oh, I'm not a boat owner or whatnot, please just stay with us and just hear about Keith going and what he has to say, because it goes even further than just being a boat owner and how to fix your own boat. So I'm going to bring Mr. Keith on right now. Hello, Keith. How are you?
Hello, Latanya. Hello, everybody. It's great to be with you tonight.
Yes, thank you. Oh, and I want to say, Shireen, thank you so much for handling the comment section. Thank you for being here. And so, yes, let's get started. So Keith, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for taking out time to do this live, to share your passion, to share, to help those who are boat owners, those who might become boat owners, and most of all, how to overcome um, when it comes to being a boat owner and fixing your own boat, overcoming that fear, and also saving thousands of dollars on
Yeah,
as well. So who doesn't want to save money?
I don't know
So
anybody that doesn't want to save money. And thank you,
ex-
Latanya. Thank you for inviting me and investing your time for me to be able to share this too.
you are so welcome. You are so welcome. So I want to um, start out with a little introduction, a background introduction. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you got into fixing boats?
So I guess it really started back in the 80s when I was in school, in high school and junior high. I was fortunate enough they had a lot of shop classes back then. We don't have shop class in schools as much as we used to. Actually, it's pretty rare to find it. But in eighth grade, they actually put an engine in front of me and a schoolmate and had us do a complete tear down and taught us how it worked, how it gets spark, how it gets the fuel and the ignition. And at the end, we just reassembled those motors and started them up. And that's kind of what started me with mechanical things. I had always loved taking things apart when I was younger, but that one class really helped me, sparked my energy with engines. And then what happened was I was working at a YMCA right out of high school as a building mechanic, just fixing different plumbing and heating and air conditioning things. And one of my friends and coworkers there invited me to his shore house for the weekend. And they had an 18-foot boat with a 150 horsepower Yamaha outboard on it. And we went out on that boat, and I just had a blast. And I still remember it to this day. Taking the boat out, kind of learning the things of how he navigated, how he went through the signs and learned how to go through the channels to get where we needed to go. There was a great little place, Jersey Shores, where I live in New Jersey, and called Tyson's Shoal. And we were able to go. It's very shallow water. It's a small boat, and we were able to go scoop up crabs. And there were sea turtles there. And they threw a surfboard in the boat, and We anchored up the boat and went over the island to the beach side where the waves were and did some surfing and then came back. And I came back and it was just, I had to get one of these.
Oh, wow. 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 Uh, so how long would you say you've been working on boats? How long has it been?
So it's an interesting question because originally I had those fears and I bought a manual for the boat and read through the manual and started to look at some of the maintenance items that needed to be done. And one of those was the lower unit gearbox that needed to be checked. And when I checked it, I found it had a little moisture in it. A little fear got into me. Oh, I have to,
Yeah.
I have to. And I said, you know what? Let me take this to someone who knows what they're doing.
Hmm.
And I paid someone to do a repair. I didn't check their work, put the boat away for that season, and unfortunately, what they did was wrong, and it ruined my lower unit. And I had to buy a used rebuilt lower unit. It cost me more money. And I said to myself, wow, even if I took this apart and broke some things, it still would be cheaper for me to do this myself. And that's when I started buying used motors, taking them apart, learning how they work, going through the manuals. I would take that motor off my boat, put another one on it, and run it to see how it runs. Sometimes get stuck out on the water and have to have a friend call
Oh,
to tow me in.
God.
Not very often. That only happened once, and I
Okay.
learned the hard way. But that's what got me started was again cost and the
Cost.
fact that I wasn't able to use the boat for that period of time that I missed.
Right.
So that's those are the things that hurt, and those are the things that usually steer people away from boating.
Okay. Right. So then would you say actually how am I going to ask this question? I was going to ask like what inspired you to want to start fixing boats, but then would it be what inspired you is from you having your own boat and your experience? Is that what kind
So I tell you, there's a couple different things. Some of them I just realized this past year. One of them was I was talking to my father. Thank God my dad is still with us. He's 84 years old,
oh
and we
wow.
get to chat a lot. And he had a boat as well. Whenever I went out on the boat and came back, he never said, "What did you catch?" or "How was the fishing?" He always said, "How did the boat run?" And we always talked about how the boat ran and the things we had to repair on it because boats, as you know, they need to be repaired pretty regularly. They're not like cars, they need a lot of maintenance and upkeep. But what happened after that one incident where I did my own repair and I started to get different motors and work on them, those motors that ran well, I sold them. And it
Mm,
helped to pay for some of my boating. And
wow.
I always had people ask me for years, why don't you will you fix my boat? I have a friend with a boat. And I said, no, no, no. I just do this for my own fun. I didn't want to make another business out of it. I already had a full-time job and
Mhm.
didn't want to go that far with it. And then I was getting deeper into engine rebuilds on boats and talked to a guy at a parts shop that I knew for many years. He referred me to an engine guy. And this engine guy, who was a machine shop owner, he actually has Captain Jack's. You can go to his website. He's a captain now.
Okay.
So you can go to Captain Jack's website. But Jack said, hey, I'm doing this machining for you. If you take my class that you pay to come take my class, I'll teach you how to do these rebuilds in your garage at home. So, of course, I signed up for the class, started rebuilding engines and selling them. And then I started to say, hey, how much time am I spending doing this? Am I making any money? So I started recording my hours and the time it spent, and people just kept calling me to do more work. So it
Oh
was actually a side business that started 20 some years ago and helped pay for
wow.
the first few years of my daughter's college. So
Oh
and it was
wow.
great. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Um, so okay, so Keith, what would you say is the most part of that you enjoy most about working on the boats?
So my favorite thing is when I help someone with their boat and they send me a video of them and their family or their friends shooting across the water on their boat. It just makes me feel good that they're able to enjoy that. And the other thing I wanted to say too is, it doesn't take a lot of money. Yes, it does take some. I used to do side jobs to pay for the boating because I was working as a mechanic. I wasn't making a lot of money when we first got married. Actually, put the boat away for a couple of years when we had our first child until we saved up and made sure we got priorities correct.
Right.
So, um, but yeah, it was interesting how that just developed over time and ended up paying for itself and then becoming a business that I had on the side.
Oh, wow. And look at all these years later.
Yeah.
And wow.
It's interesting because I have a small, we live in a small house. I didn't even have a garage. All I had was a shed, and
Oh,
that was
wow.
my workshop. And I would work on my motors out of the shed. I had outside, I had stands where I had my motors hanging, and people would bring their boats over. And I didn't really have a huge facility or anything, but I was able to do those things. And again, it's something that you can do without investing a lot.
Right, right. And like you were saying, you didn't have like this big double garage, uh
Right.
car garage, or this other big place. You worked with what you had.
That's right. Yep.
Wow. Wow. That is so okay, so I want to ask this. How did you get the name the Outboard Dad? What made you what
So that's my daughter.
okay.
So my daughter has always told me for years. So my daughter, she was an engineering student. Now she's an engineer. She works for an engineering firm,
Okay.
and she never wanted to be a mechanic, but she would always work with dad on stuff. And
Okay.
so when she got old enough and she got a car, I taught her how to change her own tire. Taught her how to take care of the oil and check everything, so she can own it herself.
Right.
And although we've done some repairs, she did have an accident with one of her cars, and we fixed it up together and got her back on the road.
Okay.
Um, so she's the one who helped me pick that name.
Okay. Wow. I like that. The outboard dad. I don't even think I've wow, it's unique. And I don't think there's, which is good because it lets you, you stand out. But I was like the outboard dad. Okay. I
Well,
like.
I'm looking out for you like your dad does, right?
There you go. There you go. Wow. So Keith, what is your can you tell us about one of your, I guess, most memorable projects that you have done?
Sure. So we had been married for maybe 10, 15 years. I had a small 18-foot boat. As a matter of fact, it's the same boat I bought when I was 18 years old. I had it for 22 years. I had different engines on it at different times,
Oh,
but we had it for a long time. And my wife doesn't swim very well. She's not very confident in the water. And it was very small boat, low sides. So she didn't feel comfortable on it.
right.
And I wanted them to experience some fishing. So I sold that boat and I bought a pile of junk. So I bought a 23-foot boat that was rotted out, didn't have
Ooh,
an engine on it. It
what?
had a trailer underneath it, and I dragged it home. So I bought it for under $1,000 and dragged it home and just started working on it.
Wow.
And it's you're shaking your head. Most of my friends shook their head. Oh man, what are you doing here? But I love that because I love that, what are you doing? And then having a result from that.
Okay.
So I worked on it. My dad actually came up and helped me work on it. I had friends help me work on it. The friends that you'll see on my YouTube channels that helped me work on the boat, completely ripped it apart and restored the whole boat, put twin engines on it. And my wife and I, we have beautiful pictures from my wife and my daughter and I out fishing. She felt more comfortable because it was higher
Right.
sides and, it was a larger boat, so it was more stable. But again,
Right.
those large boats to buy brand new are, close to $100,000 or more for those boats
Ooh,
new. So to
wow.
be able to buy one as a project, And how did I learn how to do it?
Yeah.
YouTube videos
Yeah.
and books. I bought a book about fiberglass to learn how fiberglass works, and did some research with epoxy and paints. And, I learned and experimented. And I ran that boat for 10 years and sold it after that 10 years for $9,500. So that's about what I put into it to get it on the water. So now the labor, of course, I will never get back, but it was time with my friends, enjoying rebuilding, and then time with my friends and family out on the boat.
Wow. Keith, you make it seem so simple. You No, but that's good. You make it seem so simple, and yes, even with like the videos, the ones that I have watched, I like your approach. I really, your approach. I like how just your experience, how you talk people through it, and explain what is happening. There was one video where you had the two engines you were doing. I'm trying to think the name of it, and it was like water was gushing out and smoke, and I was like, "Oh, is this about to blow up?" And then you said, "No, no, that's good. It's getting the stuff out and all of that." And I was like, "Okay,
Yeah, that was an older Grady White with twin outboards on it, and we got it back to life, right? We got it running, and then now he's actually selling that boat. But that's what it is. Is he was ready to invest a lot of money in that boat, and I
right,
said, before you do that, let's evaluate it completely. You never know everything. Any projects you start, they always cost more than what you expect. But before
right,
you jump off any bridges, let's evaluate where you're at and how much you're willing to spend on it. And also discuss that with your partner, your wife, your spouse, to make
right,
sure you understand what you're investing together, because you have to have joy and happiness when you're out on the boat, and not, oh, no, I spent too much money on the boat, and
right."
now she's not happy or he's not happy that I'm out on the water spending too much on this. So
Right, right, right. Absolutely. Wow, it was, what was it? I was wanting to, this is, I wanted to ask this question, that, and this was actually earlier I was going to ask, but, um, you actually, or some people would say, when they're in, like in that kind of, how do I want to say, when it comes to building, fixing, etc., that it's like, oh, I don't want to really tell people how to do it, because if I do and show them, then I'm going to lose out. So but actually I think that it's the opposite when you actually tell, because this is how I'm seeing it. When you tell people there is a easier way, a most cost efficient way, or
Mhm.
you're learning how to do this yourself, you'll have, I'll say, these type, one or two, one or the other type of person. You're gonna have the person that they're like, I just don't have the time or don't want to do it, and even though they could, and so they'll come to you for that. And the other thing is that, just the appreciation and the word of mouth, how that, so I don't think there's a lose, of a situation like, well, no, I don't want to tell them how to do it, because if I do, then I'm not going to keep getting business, or I'm not, and that's not what I have gotten from your videos, and your passion of what you're doing, that you really are wanting to tell people, hey guys, if you got a boat, and you're willing and you want to save, some money. And like we talked earlier, Keith, about, just because you have the money doesn't, you want to be a good steward too. So
Right.
so and even if you, let's say you do to somebody else, knowing what to look for and etc., can be of a bonus and a help. So I really like, how you are actually teaching people, showing them in a technical, for all those technical people, in a practical way, of how owning a boat doesn't have to be scary. Um,
Right. I agree. I agree, Latanya. And not everybody's going to do the technical things themselves, but at least if they learn what needs to be done, then they can know what they're getting. One of the things that I spent most of my time on with my customers was educating them on the things they needed to do to take care of it. I did most of my business was rebuilt engines. Most times when you forget to do the maintenance or you don't know that there's maintenance that you need to do, it's detrimental to the engines. It's not like your car that if you forgot to change the oil, then maybe a light will go off and tell you. It doesn't work like that on boats. They fail, and they fail really, really costly. So I
mm,
did a lot of engine rebuilds and I spent a lot of time. And I would have guys text me, at the end of the season, hey, I'm winterizing my boat. I'm doing this, this, and this. Is there anything else I need to do? And by giving out that advice all the time, that got more customers to come to me. I actually had to stop because I was by myself working on engines and I had
wow,
to say, I'm sorry, I can't take any more work right now. My time is full. Then there's people like Bill Kuhn, and you'll see Bill Kuhn in several of my videos. I sold him an engine. He had problems with it, and we worked out a deal together. And I said, we're going to break this engine in together. And I spent a couple hours out on the boat with him, showed him what he needed to do. And now he's been running that boat for 10 years, and now he's rebuilt 3 or 4 boats on his own. And so he'll still call from time to time and ask advice for certain things, and we'll share that information together. He just let me know that he hasn't done lower unit seals yet, so he wants me to come over and help him do the seals, and we'll run a video on that so other people can learn from it as well. So it's kind of feeding both, right?
right, right. Oh wow, wow. Um, so this is one I wanted to ask. What has been your most challenging repair? Have you yeah,
So yeah, that was
ever
actually I'll come back to Bill Kuhn's boat. So I had rebuilt maybe 30, 40 engines, outboard motors, and I had rebuilt other engines in my life before that, small engines, car engines, stuff like that. But I had a problem with Bill Kuhn's boat where he put it on the boat, and within a day or two, the motor was no good again, had major failure. So I said, okay, I'll own up to it. Let's see what happened. I went and did another rebuild for him at no charge. And I said, you pick the machine shop, you pay for the parts, and I'll do the labor for free. So we did all that. Now that first engine, his marina broke it in. So we don't really know what they did. I said, this one, you and I will break in together. So we broke in that motor together. He ran it all season. And at the end of the year, the motor failed again. And that really made my heart sink when I got that call.
right.
Fortunately, I had another one of those engines in my shop ready to go, so I said, I have another one. I gave him a really good price. I said, but we have to figure out why this is happening. So we did research and talked to many marina places, and a lot of even marine mechanics said, those motors, they always do that, you're never going to stop that. And I go, come on, there's got to be a reason. We got to find out what's going on. So the more research I did, and I have mentors, several different people that I've talked to over the years that are boat mechanics and that have been in this industry longer than I have. And one of them was an old machine shop guy in West Windsor. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, but he always taught me to check the fuel first. And I went over to his house. We pumped some of the fuel out into a jar. We talk about this in one of my videos, and we put it aside. And Bill said, what are you doing with that? And I said, let's just leave that there while we're doing this. We want to check the oil system. We want to check all these systems. Got his new engine on there, so he's ready to go. And then we picked up that fuel jar, and it was this much full of water in the bottom of it.
Mm,
And I said, you're getting water in your tank, and you have to figure out why, because that's ruining your engine. So he spent that winter pulling apart the boat. He found leaks in his fuel system. He repaired all his leaks, and now he's been running that same engine for 10 years straight. So
Wow.
It was a challenge to understand it, but also since we kind of built a relationship there, we went through that together,
Together.
and we shared that, and since, yes, I had a business, but it was a side business. So I'm not too worried about losing large amounts of money. I'm here to
Uh,
help that person.
Right.
And then we both learned from it. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges that I remember.
Oh, wow. That was a big challenge. I mean,
Hmm.
it was, and thankfully you were able to work together to figure out what was going on and the solution to it.
Yeah, and luckily he's a good guy. He's a true gentleman. He's an intentional father. We've become really good friends. He's a great guy, but he didn't quit on me either. Anybody could have just said, especially the second time around, they could have said, no, forget it. And that's when people quit. And then he could have blamed me. Instead, we were together on it and found out what the problem was. So,
Wow. Wow. So through that challenge, you also gained a really good friend, you
yeah,
know, work how can it's like how some people say you really don't know um in other words, like with our relationships with people until you have a challenge.
yes, it's true,
Because
isn't it?
when things are smooth sailing, I mean,
Yep.
and I even think about scripture even supports that, where Jesus said, if you love those who love you, I mean, even sinners do that.
Yeah, what
That's
gain is
don't
that?
Yeah, don't pat yourself on the back because of that, but it's loving those where when things, happen,
Yep.
those who don't love you back, or just something happens and you still love them. Now that is real love, and that is really where with in any relationship it's going to be tested, and that's when you are going to know, is this really genuine or not? So in that challenge, um like you said, he could have just been like, no, you know and chose, many things could have came up in that situation, but it
Right.
didn't. And you worked through it, and that showed the character of that person and the genuineness of that. So
Yeah, and none of us are perfect. I had, just you're making me think of challenges, and that's kind of what I do, right? I overcome challenges with these boating. And I had another gentleman. He was 3, 4 hours away from me in Pennsylvania. That through a network of people found out about me, and I rebuilt his engine, and he took it back out, and he had a problem with it. And I said, look, take it to your local marina, see what they say. There was a simple jet in the carburetor in all 6 carburetors that I forgot to put in there, and it was running like crap. They put those in, engine ran great, but it
wow.
cost them $900 to do that. So what
Whew.
did I do? I sent him a check for $900, right? Because that's the part of doing business. And even he said, with all the details, how did you miss that? I'm not perfect either. Everybody makes mistakes, but
Exactly.
what did we learn from that, right? That's what it comes down to.
Right.
Owning up to it, right?
Owning up to it. Absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
gentleman referred me to about 8 more people that I rebuilt motors for. So
He
what
did.
was the value in that $900, right?
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I tell you, word of mouth can get you so much more a lot of times than other things, because I know even for myself, I look at reviews, and if I can ask somebody, like, have you actually had, experience? Have you actually got a service and etc. And when they tell me, oh yeah, etc. etc., I'll sometimes actually make a decision to move forward, or I'm like, so
Absolutely. Yeah, there's such a huge value in personal experience with other people.
yes, 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 yes. So I would like to go to oh, this is a good one. What are some what would you say are some essential skills that someone needs or should have to start fixing boats?
So I would say the first thing you should do, because you're going to be a boat owner if you're going to work on your own boat.
Right.
So safety courses, right?
Safety courses.
So
Okay.
safety courses for boating, number one,
Okay.
because if you're working on your boat and you make a mistake and you're out on the water, you have to be safe first, because being out on the water is a whole lot different. You can't just pull over on the side of the road and call somebody to come get you. You know, it
Okay.
doesn't work that well.
Okay.
But when it comes down to working on your own boat, and what the best advice I would give is look up the engine that you have. There's plenty of manuals. There's a company called Seloc, Seloc, that makes manuals. It's actually Coles, spelt backwards. It's Mr. and Mrs. Coles who wrote all these outboard motor books, and
Wow.
they make a ton of different books for different makes and models. Not all the information you need is there. You can also get the manufacturer's manuals. So
Okay.
sometimes you can look those up. Sometimes you can get them at your local boat dealer. Finding someone at your local marina that you can trust and talk to is going to be key. They're going to be able to explain what the manuals say, but also help you with what you'll find is the manual is printed, you're making a repair, but then they discover a few years later that there was a warranty issue or a change in that because they had a problem, and that's why you're making that repair. And that marina technical person is going to know that, and they're going to help you with that. So those people are invaluable.
Okay. Okay. Do you need to have any special tools or equipments?
You know, you can have some special tools. You can spend a lot of money on tools if you want to. My friends know I'm not a tool crazy guy because I'm a tightwad. I don't like spending a lot of money. So I actually make a lot of my own tools. There's actually a video that I do for a tool that I make to repair the power tilt and trim on an engine. You can do that. You can make some of your own tools. Basic tools are fine. I am a big proponent of Harbor Freight. They're really cheap tools.
Okay.
Um, are they the best tools? No, but how often are you using them? You're not a full-time mechanic who needs his wrench, and if his wrench breaks, he can't do his job, right?
Right. Right.
So for most of it, those are fine. Craftsman tools, I used to go to Sears for my tools all the time. Now Sears is gone. So Craftsman is at, I think, Lowe's or Home Depot now, and they still honor them, just like Harbor Freight. If you break a tool and it's guaranteed, they'll give you another one.
Okay.
So basic hand tools, sockets, basic mechanics tools. And what you'll find is as you start working on things, there's going to be other tools you're going to need. And sometimes you make a trip to Harbor Freight to buy a tool to get your job done, right?
Okay. Okay. Well, that's really nice to know that that there's not going to be um, a big expense with tools. That and like you said, you're not going to be like this mechanic that's going to be doing it all the time on your boat
Right.
fixing. So I'm sure that's going to be nice for people to know. Like, okay, it won't break the bank with getting tools because
Yeah,
tools
I
are
have
expensive
yeah, I have tools I bought at garage sales.
and used to have.
Sure.
Oh,
Sure. You can buy used tools on Facebook Marketplace. There's plenty of places you can find used tools. Maybe there's one or two pieces missing, but you have enough of what you need to get your jobs done. So it's another great way to pick up tools.
okay. So you hear it. You hear it from the outboard dad. You can go even to yard sales.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. So let me see. I what are can you talk about go back to the safety precautions people should take when they're working on their boats? What are the safety precautions?
So safety glasses are key. I
Okay.
am a I am a big proponent of wearing gloves. If you watch my videos, I am almost always in gloves. So, these chemicals can really get into your skin.
Mm,
If you ask Sean Isaacs, he'll talk to you. Anything you put on your skin absorbs into your body, right? So
your
you want to be careful. There's fuels, there's cleaners, oils. If you can keep those from getting on your skin, you're going to get some. You're going to get some dirt. it's going to happen. But those are the most important things. Safety glasses are key if you have to grind something or cut something. If you're hammering on something, metal pieces can break off and hit you in the eye. So it's very good to have that. Over the years, and the more things that you do, it may, some people who are more handy than others may want to pick up a little small welder. They sell these welders at Harbor Freight for a couple of $100s, and you can start welding things.
Okay.
So if you have broken parts you're going to fix yourself, you have to make sure you have the right welding gear with the right glasses, shields. They make jackets to prevent from the sparks from getting on your hands and everything. So you want to make sure you follow all those safety precautions in working on things.
Okay. Okay. Very good. And Keith, what would and one of the other questions with this is, what would you say are the maintenance tips that a person can take to keep the boat in good condition?
Number one maintenance tip, and I'm going to advertise now for a company called Startron. Actually, it's made by Starbright, is the company, STAR-BRITE. And Starbright makes all types of boat products, but their number one product that I use that all my friends hear me talk to them about is Startron. Startron is a fuel treatment. One of the biggest differences between a boat and your car is that your boat has a vented gas tank.
Hmm.
So simply, and I love to explain things, so here I go. Here I go. You remember you asked me to come on.
Yes.
So what I love to do is you can do an experiment. And I have these mason jars that I buy.
Okay.
And if you fill up a mason jar about this far with gas, and I take a fan and I put it next to it and blow air across it, in about 20 minutes, depending on the humidity of the day, there'll be about this much water in the bottom of that fuel, because
Wow.
the fuel has ethanol in it. So
Mm.
when they put ethanol in it, it's similar to alcohol and it absorbs moisture. And that will
Mm.
end up at the bottom of your fuel tank. And that's where your fuel pickup is, sucking the water off the bottom of your tank. So
Okay.
on your boat, it's a vented tank. Your car has a sealed tank. So it
Okay.
doesn't absorb that moisture. Plus, you put new fuel in your car almost every week, every
Hmm.
couple of weeks at the least. Where your
Right.
boat, maybe if you go out 5, 10 times a year, you fill it up 5 or 10 times, and then it sits there in your tank all week long, absorbing that moisture. So
Oh.
Startron is what prevents it from separating into water at the bottom and fuel on the top.
Oh.
So that is my number one maintenance item. The
Okay.
other the other maintenance items are greasing and oiling all the joints and places that need to be oiled, lower
Okay.
unit gearboxes, power tilt and trim oil, all those fluids need to be maintained and taken care of. And for your boat in general, especially if you're a saltwater boater, because I was an ocean boater and bay boater, is
Okay.
all of the electrical devices, all the switches, all the knobs, all the lights. I would take my light bulbs out and put a lubricant on them, like a never sees lubricant, and put them back in, keep them from getting corroded.
Okay.
All of those little electrical things. Bill Kuhn talks about it in one of my videos. When you're making an electrical connection, they make a heat sink that goes over top of it to seal it so the moisture doesn't get into it. And you heat it up and it shrinks down over top of it. So
Okay.
items like that to maintain that electrical are always key. Um, Kind of a combination maintenance and safety item is your bilge pump. So that's the pump in the bottom of the boat. If it's a rough day, if water starts coming in the boat, you need to be able to pump it out efficiently, because we
Oh.
don't because we don't want to sink, right?
Right.
So maintaining that bilge pump, I
Okay.
always made a habit, and my father and I did this in both of our boats, have a second bilge pump on the boat all the time, just in case one
Oh.
fails.
You got a
You can
backup.
now pump it out. You don't want to be there with a bucket trying to bail the water out while you're on the phone with the Coast Guard for them to
Right.
come get you, right?
Right. So, Keith, how often should you do these maintenance?
That's a great question. I had a little ritual, and I'm going to do a write up for maintenance items before you take your boat out.
Okay.
But most of those safety things, I checked the bilge pump, made sure it operated before the night before I took the boat out. The lower unit gear oil, if you check it annually, you're probably okay. But if it's a new boat, you want to check it each time you go out
Okay.
until you're sure it's sealed and not leaking. So that was one of my mistakes. I paid someone to do a repair and then I didn't check it when they finished.
Ooh.
And it cost me a lot of money, right? And a lot of aggravation. So those are some of the top items. And that Startron needs to be go in your fuel every time you fill up the tank.
Okay.
You always put the Startron in.
Okay. 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 So this is kind of like a future question. Do you have I guess any thing that that you can share with us of a goal related to fixing with with boats
A
any
goal for myself or
yes, for yourself or something. Are you venturing off into um, something new that you haven't shared yet, or you want to, or maybe just keep that to yourself right now, if it's a
no,
venture.
that's okay. So my Outboard Dad channel is new. I just started it back in February.
Okay.
Sharing that information, for everyone to see, and that's kind of my new thing that I'm learning to get that information and get better at making videos and sharing that information. So that's my goal, is to continue to build that. And after that's built, and I, as my coach tells me, as I go deep and get known more for that, my most important goal, to be quite honest, other than my wife, my family, and my Jesus, those
Yes.
I did that backwards: Jesus, wife, family,
Right.
right? Other than that,
Yeah.
is I want to help teach people about the trades. I've been a
Yeah.
heating and air conditioning mechanic for almost 40 years.
Wow.
Um, I started off, doing plumbing work and electrical, and went to tech school in the evenings for several years. And I now volunteer at certain tech schools, help teach the young people how to find their way in
Mm,
the trades, because the trades, to me, it's a great opportunity that doesn't get promoted very much at all.
right.
Um, it's not that you don't need an education, and I think that's sometimes the myth is it education or trades? No, it's education, but is it education in what? It's education in the trades, or is it education in engineering or being a doctor? Then you need college for that.
Right. Right.
A lot of people can get involved in the trades and end up becoming mechanical engineers because they study on the side to do that as well.
Right.
But there's so much more you can do in the trades with electrical, with as our friend Phil Butler.
Yeah.
Him and I talk every once in a while. I give him basic circuits to put together on his own. He's learning to be an electrician and do the electrical trades, and
Right.
I'm all for that. Welders are needed, as we know.
Yes.
Heating and air conditioning is one that's almost never promoted, and it involves all of those trades in one.
Oh, wow.
It's an
Wow.
interesting thing. So that's kind of one of my passions that I'm going to be working towards. I
Okay.
am writing a book. I think it's going to be called "Finding Your Way in the Trades." I
Finding your way in
got
the
started
trade.
with it. Yeah, I got started with it and kind of got off track with it. I need to get back on track with that.
Okay.
And I want to help promote that, and help people find their way and be able to own a home, to be able to pay that home off, to be able
Right.
to pay for a child to go to college if they so choose, and set up some retirement funds so that they can have some security.
Right. Right. So Keith, you will have to be back on for your book promotion when you write
Okay.
the book. So
You got
so
it.
just giving you heads up about that. Um so um I guess at this one of the things I wanted to before we kind of get towards the end, I wrote it down, and one of the things that you had mentioned, it was about the myth, the myth.
Hmm.
And so, you had mentioned how there's the myth, or yes, and how you're wanting to dispel it. And so, I was like, what about adding one to it, but it's not dispelling it, but basically like this. Okay, the three best days: when I bought my boat, when I learned to fix my boat,
Yeah.
and then if and when I sell my boat, if you're
Yeah.
wanting to. So I was like,
I like
that
that.
you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so the three best days: when I bought my boat, when I learned to fix my boat, and taking care of it, learning to, that's your boat. And if you do decide, to sell your boat, okay. So,
Yeah. I'm gonna steal that from you, Latanya. Thank
yes,
you.
that's for you. That's for you. I was like,
And it's interesting because Hector is learning that. Hector's a part of our group, and Hector dropped his boat off at my house, and he's learning now that when you let a boat sit for several years is probably the worst thing you can do. And
oh, right,
that's what happens is it ends up becoming something now that has no value, or it
mm,
has very, very little value.
right,
So, and the rebuild cost after sitting, now there's so much more that needs to be done. And
right.
during that time, you don't have any of that enjoyment. The
Yeah.
difficult part was anytime he had a repair done, no one shared with him the maintenance items he needed to do to keep it up after that repair.
Oh,
So he paid for a repair. He got it out on the water, ran it for a year or two. Something else broke. He paid for another repair, but he
mm,
was never taught those maintenance items along the way that he
right.
could still be using it. So what happens is when we do learn those maintenance items, now we have a boat we can run for 5, 10 years, sell it, have some value back out of it for the next boat.
Right.
Um, my friend Ed, we did a video for his 22-foot boat. He had a 20-foot boat, then he moved up to the 22-foot. Now that his kids are off to college and one has a boyfriend now, his daughter, and not
Okay.
boating as much, he's looking to downsize. But
Oh,
since he learned to maintain these boats, he's just going to sell that boat and get what he wants now. Yep.
see. Wow. Wow. So Keith, I had mentioned when we spoke earlier about can you speak to the person like me who is like, I'm like, oh, I hadn't really kind of thought about boating, but when I heard what you said in one of your videos, I wrote it down. I was like, it's one of, I really liked that video. Okay, the title of it was, "Is Fear Keeping You from
Mhm.
Enjoying Your Boat?" I really
Right.
liked, that was one of, the videos that I really liked, and it spoke to me of what you were saying in there. So, and especially when you were saying how, about how owning your own boat, um and knowing how to fix it, just like a car, just like all these things, the value with that, and the fear, and what is keeping you. And I was like, well, fear of the water, that is that is what would be keeping me. And but then when you went into saying about the memories and about that, I was like, oh wow, and I actually, as a child, I did fish. I didn't go out
Okay.
on a boat, but I did fish like on the bank. And it was I enjoyed it. I didn't like cleaning it. Now that was something. I grew up in the South, South, and so it was like the adults, they caught the fish and then they cleaned it, gutted it, and I was like, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
just didn't want to do that part of it. But I did like fishing, and it was fun, and that was just from the bank.
Yeah,
So
and
I,
you just throw them back then if you don't want to clean them, right?
yeah, just going back. Yeah,
Catch you next time.
right, right. So can you speak to the person like that, like, me, who maybe they haven't seen that video yet and
Sure.
what you were saying?
Sure, there's several different ways to get involved in boating. One of the ways is find a friend with a boat and help him with that boat. So if you have a friend that has a boat, you understand or you start learning the preparation that he does before he goes out on the boat, before that person goes out on their boat. So you can help them with the, hey, is there anything I can do? Do you need, I'll get you some money for gas ahead of time. If you're going fishing, maybe I can swing by and pick up the bait for you and meet you down at the boat ramp. Teach me what I need to do, what ropes I need to hold on to when we put the boat in the water. Get involved with someone who's a friend who has a boat and share in that experience with them. They've probably done it for many years and you can learn a lot and you share that responsibility together. So that's probably one of the easiest ways. And if you're not planning, if it's not something you want to dive into, and like me, I dove into it and I spend my weekends, working on the boat or going out on the boat. I didn't play golf. I didn't do anything else. I sold my motorcycle, and enjoy the boat with the family.
Right.
So if you have a friend, so that's one way you can do it. Of course, another way is because it can get expensive. Is you can do there's groups, there's marinas that have you can pay an annual fee. You
Oh,
don't own the boat, but you
okay.
call them and say, hey, we want to come out. We want to go out on the boat tomorrow. And you pick the boat that you want to go out on, depending on the fees that you're paying, and they put it in the water for you. They maintain the boat, and you go out and enjoy the boat for that day. And you come back, and they clean the boat and do everything else. If you're with your friend on his boat, then you come back and you help him clean up the boat. And now you're partners, even though you didn't pay for the boat. I'm sure
Right.
he'd be very happy to have someone help him clean up and learn how to take care of it. I know
Right.
I did. When I had some good friends who always helped me with that.
Okay.
So that's a couple ways you can get involved. And then of course, that's I think that's a great start, those two ways,
Okay.
before you buy your own boat, because you're going to learn so much of what you need to have a boat.
Right.
There's dock lines you need, there's bumpers you need, life jackets, flares.
Mm,
There's a plug in the bottom of the boat, a spare propeller. So there's all these. You need to have a ship to shore radio just in case you have a problem. You can call the Coast Guard.
okay.
Um, they make GPSs now that plug into your ship to shore radio. That if you send out a distress signal, it sends in the GPS coordinates of where you're at.
Oh,
So there's
okay.
lots of different things you can learn if you know someone who has a boat and enjoy it with them for a period of time before you jump off and own your own boat.
Okay.
Because what I used to tell my friends is, I'm thinking about getting a boat. What I used to say was, well, if you don't enjoy working on it just as much as going out on it, you're probably not going to have a good experience.
Oh, okay.
And they would say,
Okay.
oh, really? Yeah, because I enjoyed tinkering on the boat. I come
Right.
home from work during the week and, I'm going to fix that one light that didn't work and find out the switch and run a new wire and make the light work. And then I get out on the boat and it's functioning properly and I'm happy, you know?
Right.
So if you're looking to buy a boat, it's the evaluation process first. One of the things I got into, I rebuilt motors for many years, and I ended
Right.
up doing more consulting than anything else. I had so many guys that bought, upgraded, or sold one boat and got another one, and they would pay me to go out, and I would evaluate the boat. I'd bring my tools, my test equipment with me. There was plenty of times where I found engines that needed to be rebuilt, and the seller's like, "No, it runs fine." I said, "I know it's running fine right now, but it's on its way out." And it's not going to get better. It's not going to fix itself. And either
Right.
steer someone away from that boat, or I had another gentleman. We took the boat out on the water. It wouldn't run right, and the guy said, "Oh, it's only going to cost about $1,200 to fix. Should I buy it if he takes $1,200 off?" And I said, "No. Have him take it to the marina, spend $1,200, and if it runs right, give him what he wants for the boat. If it doesn't, now you're not stuck with a boat that doesn't run right." So
Right.
some basic common sense advice that I really learned from my mom more than anybody, because she's always been
Okay.
very common sense.
Right.
Um, so she's much like me. She's very thinks very much like that. So It's doing those three things. So that's kind of three ways you get involved in voting.
Wow, Keith, that is so appreciated because you are really being real and authentic with people, and not just like how so many times we are like just told not that part of it, like counting the
Right.
cost, you know, of it. And that's really appreciative. And I know that the viewers, that they will be appreciate that, like, okay, yeah, I need to count the costs with this,
Right.
and but thank you for sharing
Yeah.
it.
So one of the kind of jokes between my friends is that I'm a pain in the neck, right? So when someone goes to buy something, I can jokingly say I have trust issues, right? Someone says, "Oh, the motor was just rebuilt." Oh, the motor was just rebuilt, so it has more value. I'm going to buy this one. I'm like, so I say, okay, who rebuilt it? Do you have a build sheet that shows all the parts that they put into it? Do you have a receipt from the machine shop showing the machine work that they did to it?
Right.
Oh, no. Okay, it's up to you now. Each time you have less and less information or evidence,
Right.
right? When we look to our faith, when we look to Jesus, we look at the evidence in those books in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and who talk about Jesus, and how he came about, and those are that's evidence from the past that was written down. So
That's right.
myself, sometimes I go to the creator of the outboard, the manufacturer, to get that information, to know and verify, right?
Right. Oh, wow. Very good. Very good. Very wow. Thank you. So Keith, I want to give you, do you have any final thoughts? This has been great. This has been, I could just keep going, but I can't, because we know, that which I do want to mention, that Keith is also going to be on Sister Shireen at the heart of the conversation. She is my amazing moderator that is in the chat, holding things down. And so you're going to get more of Keith, and just his and what will be shared over there. So it doesn't stop here. You can go over, please do, onto Sister Shireen's channel. And will you please put your information, Sister Shireen, out in the comment, and as well as the time, because I know you kind of adjusted your time. So could you please do that, so others can be able to join over there as well? Um, so Keith, I want to give you, and I want to give you the screen. I want to any thoughts or messages for our viewers, and also, can you leave where people can follow your work, and get in touch with you?
Sure. So you can follow me on YouTube. My YouTube handle is right there, Outboard Dad. You can also email me at keithm5734@verizon.net. So I guess in closing, there are good people out there that I was blessed to have in my life to share so much information with me, whether it's someone that was a parts counter person. I have a video about my friend Roger, who's actually my father's friend. They went to high school together, who started me off in boating. It was his boat that I first went out on when I was younger, and he shared wisdom with me. It's in one of my videos you can look at. It's most recent. I've had other machine shop people, other mechanics that I've met, and some really good friends to share this experience with. And to me, that's what it's all about. Going out on the boat is enjoyable for the family. It's not a one person thing. It's enjoyable for family, for friends, and there's so many different things you can do. So I hope I can help somebody, anybody. I enjoy helping you, and reach out to me, please, and let me know what I can do to help you have a better boating experience. You don't have your volume on.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I want to say thank you. Thank you so much. This has just been an awesome time. Like I said, I could go on and on. I really could, but I wanted this will not be, I hope, the last that
Yeah, we'll
you.
do a follow up.
Absolutely. Please, let's do that. For sure. And I want to say those if you have any questions um because there are people I know that are watching, they may not actually be leaving a comment or showing up there, but uh, later after the interview, there are people that you can leave a question and we can do answer those in the follow up, or go over to Sister Shireen's channel and you can ask those questions as well. So it's not a, yes. So either you can leave them or go over, which I want you to go over to her channel and to support, and you will even get more of at the heart of the conversation with Keith and with Shireen. I just wanted to leave with I'm trying to find what I wanted to say. I wrote it down and oh my goodness. um okay. So what I wanted to say is that having gotten to know Mr. Keith from our Create Your Economy class, and how he just took off. I mean, he took off, and he's growing with his channel. People are getting out there; they are knowing more about him, and I just want to say that with Keith at the Outboard Dad, that he is helping people. He is helping people to have a better boating experience. And even most of all, overcoming their fears of fixing their own boats. And 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 with for someone like myself, seeing how there are other things that you can do as well, as I mean, going out onto the boat, making these memories with your family, with your friends. Wow, that just I really like that. And all these other things that he is mentioning, the practical steps for safety and maintenance on the boat, and most of all, even counting the costs. So where are you going to get all of that in one person? The experience, the wealth of experience, the passion, the technical, practical way, helping you to save thousands of dollars, and even helping you to, like, hey, count the costs with this, and even just the memories and the things that you can do in boating, and showing you that. So please support the Outboard Dad. Check out his channel. He has new content all the time, and let's follow him. Let's support him. Um, and
Thank you, Latanya.
and so once again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Shireen. As always, thank you for those who are watching. And just as this is real talk and real solutions. So thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay,
So
thank you, Latanya. It's been a blessing to spend this time with you and be able to share this way. I really appreciate you for the invite for this.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And so God bless, and I'll see you on the other channel.
Sounds good. Have a good
Okay.
night.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.